Sellers, we're under contract. Now we're in business and it's exciting, isn't it? But don't get too excited just yet. We now have to go through the termination option and contingency periods. I'm James Brinkman, Brink, broker associate with Homes by Brink and AustinRealEstate.com. Let's start with the basics. What is a contingency? A contingency in an offer is when a buyer and a seller have an accepted offer, but the final sale is contingent upon certain criteria being met. Contingencies typically fall under three major categories in most states: inspection, appraisal, and loan approval. In Texas, though, we do things a little bit differently and don't have an inspection contingency. What we have instead is a termination option period. What in the world is that? The termination option period in Texas real estate is a set amount of time during which the buyer can cancel the contract for any reason. The buyer pays the seller a fee for this option, and if they decide to terminate the contract within this period, they can do so without losing their earnest money deposit. It's not tied to anything other than the days and the dollar amount you've negotiated. You're buying the right to terminate without cause. During the termination option period, most buyers have the time to do their due diligence and learn the ins and outs of the property. They usually have a home inspection, a pest inspection, and any other specialized inspections that may specifically apply to the property. These may include such inspections as a pool inspection or a septic inspection. If the general home inspection reveals that an item may need a closer look by a specialized or licensed inspector, we may need to bring in a roof inspector or an HVAC tech. Also during the termination option period, and typically after any inspections, the buyer could ask for repairs to be done or a credit from the seller in lieu of repairs. In exchange, the buyer will offer to release their termination option. We try to negotiate agreeable terms for both parties. Although completely negotiable by the buyer and seller, termination option periods tend to run anywhere from 4 to 10 days. In really hot markets, some buyers do choose to waive their termination option period altogether, but that's a rare occurrence in most markets. One contingency we do have available to us is regarding the loan itself. There's a time negotiated and set within the third-party financing agreement to allow the buyer's credit portion of the loan approval. An appraisal is done during this time period as well by the lender, and full loan approval will be determined. The purchase contract is written with these contingencies in place, and the buyer and seller agree on the timelines on which they are due. What timelines do we see with these? Typically, these loan contingency time periods can be anywhere from 10 to 24 days, depending on what was negotiated between the buyer and the seller. If for some reason the buyer is not able to qualify for the loan, or if the home doesn't appraise and these contingencies are in place, the buyer can also back out. As a seller, you need to understand that if a home does not appraise for the contractual amount, the lender will only loan on the appraised value. If this happens, the buyer either has to come up with the difference in the amount, or we may have to negotiate a new purchase price that is agreed upon between the buyer and the seller to keep the deal moving towards closing. So I always advise my clients not to start packing their bags until all the contingencies have been removed. Once they are removed, we'll have a little relief and assurance that the home is actually gonna close and you should be moving soon. James Brinkman with Homes by Brink and AustinRealEstate.com. And in Austin, when you think real estate, think Brink. I'll see y'all again soon.